The Department of Corrections, who will be the housing authority for some of these folks. It's Burl Cain. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Fine. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Good to see you in there. You just blend into that background, just absolutely beautiful there. It's like we coordinated stuff. All right. Anything you want to mention on this one, this big roundup? Any insight on this one?
No, I'm really good. The only thing I want to mention is really a good job they're doing and rounding them up and bringing them in. That's good. That's what we need to do.
I mentioned something a couple of seconds ago, and I just thought about this when I wanted to throw this in here. What's this immigration surge of whoever knows, 10, 15, 20 million people in illegals? How do you handle that? How are correction systems going to handle that when they're adjudicated and found guilty and put into the prison system?
Well, we don't really feel the impact yet because they got to come here and commit the crimes and go through the system, and most time they deport them, and then if they don't, then they're here. So then we'll just blend them in like everybody else. They just come go to prison.
But isn't it amazing that we haven't had a system right now because it's not a problem. It's kind of weird that in some places where these crimes are being committed, do we really think that they're being deported?
I hope so, but if not, we'll have a place for them because you break the law of Mississippi, here you come.
All right. Got so many things to ask you about this one. The state penitentiary is, how many people do we have there now? Do you have any idea what the capacity is as far as the entire prison system?
Oh, yes, sir. Today we have in our prison system 17,674 inmates. And so we have room, and at Parchman, our capacity is 2,690, and there's 2,488 there today.
Is that up and down?
It's up or down? It stays pretty stable because we move out a lot, and parole board is working pretty good now that we release in about, with 50% at their level now. They're releasing that many that come before them, so that's half. That's good.
Commissioner, I mentioned a little bit earlier, this is a legislative session. You've gone through a lot of them in Louisiana, and you're going through one here. There are some people who are not happy by where we are in the system. And have you had a conversation with any of those folks as far as Juan Barnett or the governor on this?
I have. I talked to Senator Barnett. He does a good job representing corrections, and we appreciate him. Also, Representative Curry, our representative on the House side, corrections chairman, and she's new, but she's really got herself involved and so forth. She's doing a great job as well, and so yes, we do cooperate and work with them, and so they pass laws, and we try to make it fit so it doesn't cost us any money, and we can incarcerate people effectively, and that's what we're doing. So things are working real well with them right now. They have a meeting this morning at 10, and we'll be looking in on that one in correction with Senator Barnett.
We had a visit from Becky Curry, and it doesn't seem she would have been one of the last people I thought would be put in that position. But she basically said she is looking forward to it, and she's going to be doing a lot of traveling to the prison systems during the summertime to try to grasp this one. It is not an easy thing to get control of as far as the knowledge and everything else that's going on.
I tell you, though, she has 17 years experience in the legislature.
Yes.
So she's a veteran as far as the process. So then just merely us informing her and she being informed and getting involved. And she's a kind person that cares about the public, cares about the prison, but cares about, good corrections. And so she's kind of hawkish, and that's good. And she wants them off the street, and she wants us to change them and have school and have programs, which we've really developed a lot of that now.
You get frustrated a little bit sometimes, too?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And it's kind of like you want people to understand the business, and when people that don't know the business really try to dominate what we do and tell us, I came here to fix this. I've done this a long time. In 34 years as a prison warden, so I pretty well understand what changes people's lives. And we're pretty much everybody on board in Mississippi to really support us and help us, the governor, the lieutenant governor, and Senator Hobson with the money, and the others with the money. They've been quite generous with us, and then we have to really use it to the best of our abilities so that we're effective in making the change.
When you took over Angola, it was listed as the bloodiest prison in America, and when you left, it was on one of the safest, most secure, maximum security prisons in the country. But you were there for what, 21 years?
21 years at Angola.
I mean, you and I both would love to know that we had 21 more years to complete a task.
You only have 3 more, or 3.5. But
yeah.
Look, we got this one spun around, and that's really good. And so
You actually believe that we're turning the corner here?
Oh, definitely, we've turned the corner because we got control of those gangs, and that's what we had to do to reduce violence.
But the Department of Justice said counter to that. They didn't mention Parchman, though. Are we talking about the gangs are doing better as far as Parchman, but maybe not the other 3?
No, when the governor gave us Walnut Grove, and I asked him to do that, he gave us the 2 we needed to really change the gangs. And so the gangs are pretty much, for instance, if you issue one of those kill-on sites, and I heard you mention that a little while ago,
yeah,
we're going to catch the guy that said kill-on site. He's not going to send his soldiers out to kill somebody. We're going to catch him too, but we want him. And so if we lock the leaders up and take the leaders out, then we can, you're cutting the head off the snake. And so that's what we've been doing. That's what we do. And then we send some of those out of state. I just made a deal to send some inmates to South Dakota. And I'm going to get some from South Dakota, but they're not going to know anything about Mississippi. They might even be Indians, for all I know. But anyway, it'd be interesting. But we swapping with other prisons, those gang leaders, so then therefore they're a 0 when they get there. They may be the king they think here. We just clip their wings and they're gone.
Yeah, that's what I think the people in the state want to hear. But then again, the question is, Justice Department had a 60-page statement of conditions on the confinement at 3 of the prisons, and they said one of the problems in all 3 of those prisons, not Parchman, were the problems with gangs. Did they mention if it were up and down or up or down? But the way it sounded in their report that it was out of control at those 3 locations.
Well, see, we've been here. They're behind us. We've been here 4 years now, and so when you first get here, it was like Angola. It was a wild and woolly place. Excuse me. But anyway, it takes time to get a handle on it. You have to change the staff, and you have to change the leadership, and you have to change the mentality of the people and how to deal with violence and deal with the gang people. So we're ahead of them. We're way ahead. And we hope that within the next 18 months that we'll have this whole thing turned around. It's really turning now. To where, read in the paper. We don't have the murders we had. We don't have the violence we had. It's not coming out anymore. We're living without having all that. So now they may be a murder tonight, for all I know. But it's really been reduced at most all of our prisons. And Parchman is probably one of our safest prisons now. But the others are coming on along, too, because we deal with gangs everywhere, and we have gang activity. We have a really good investigative operation. I hired the second in charge of the FBI from Mississippi to run our CID program, so we have real good policing. It takes a little while for that impact to take effect, so we have 2 FBI agents that work for us now, so retired. So all these things are changing it, and we're moving the gangs out. We're not having the violence that we had before, and when we see it, they issue that kill on sight, and we after them. I mean, we catch them and we get them, and they're gone. They go to Walnut Grove, and they don't come back.
Let me ask you this. When you sit down and you have face-to-face with the DOJ?
I do and I don't. They really not. It's really a lawyer thing more than anything else, and they say we're in violation, and some things we are, some things we're not. And what we do is we have to work like crazy to fix it, and that's why our budget will be really large this time, because we're repairing things that haven't been done in years gone by. And so that's kind of what the situation was with Parchman.
I want to continue this in a minute. We got a quick break here, and in all fairness, I think this was one of the reasons you were called in, came out of retirement to take over this task, because a lot of this DOJ stuff happened, 2020?
Right.
Or 2017, somewhere in that area, the latter part of that area. And we'll talk about that when we come back with the Commissioner of the Department of Corrections, Burl Cain. Burl Cain, Commissioner of Mississippi Department of Corrections. Do we have chain gangs anymore?
No, sir. They would drag down all the vegetables while we picking them in the field.
Yeah, but when you started in Louisiana, there were some chain gangs, was it not?
They were, but I stopped doing it because it was true. They couldn't harvest the vegetables. They were dragging those chains around. We just had gun guards on horses.
Absolutely crazy. Let me go back to the DOJ. Whoever your contact person is, do they, because a lot of these things seem to be, regardless of who's in that position, how good you are or how bad you are, it doesn't really matter. There are things you can't do. This has got to be the worst agency to run because you're taking care of a lot of people who've committed crimes, from murders to a sundry of other things. We understand that, and they're not all going to behave. But when you're sitting here talking to these people, do they understand they can issue any edict they want to, any fine they want to, but if the problem comes from a facility that is understaffed because you've done everything you could to bring people in there, there's nothing you can do. Do they kind of give us a handicap on that or something?
No, they expect you to be constitutional, and we do too, and so we have to make that change, and we are. We're going to be paying correctional officers more and more till we get enough. We know what it takes in other states, and we're going to be matching that in the governor and in our politicians and our legislators.
What if that doesn't work, Commissioner? I mean, you're going to still be drawing from the same group of people in that area. I'm talking specifically in the rural areas.
Well, I hope it works because we need to hire more people. And we're gaining ground with hiring, and that's good.
Yeah.
The other thing, our prisons are safer, so people don't mind working so much in there as they did before when I first came. But the justice thing looked at us for 2022 and early 23. We're different now than we were when they looked, so we continually work to fix it and correct everything. So that's what the difference is.
I've got another file here that says that this report was not that long ago. There was an additional report that was, a couple of months old or 3 months old from the DOJ that came in. Is there not another report previous to or after 2022?
There's one that goes into the first part of 23, April, May, and June.
I got you.
But it doesn't cover everything. It's just bringing an update on some of it, so that's good. But we're ahead of them, and we're working fast to do that.
You've been in this business a long time. Can we continue to overlook the idea or just push it aside that when Parchman started out, 1901? It is the state's oldest institution, 18,000 acres, 2,542 beds, 52 support buildings, 7 different housing units. Sooner or later, and I know Juan Barnett was talking about a program to close this down, but how much longer do you think we can continue to do that and invest money in Parchman without facing that probability or that plan to close it down and build a new prison?
Well, at the time he was proposing that, we had spent $53 million on Parchman, on the water system, and the sewer system, and so forth. For another $30 million, we're going to have it in pretty good shape so that it can last probably 15 more years or so. In the price of a new prison, the one that they're building right now in Georgia for 1,500 inmates is $851 million. So prisons are real expensive this day and time. And so, therefore, if we can squeeze more years out of Parchman, then that's good for the taxpayers in Mississippi. And we will squeeze about 15 more, probably or so, maybe more, by repairing and keeping it going, because it's in pretty good shape now. You should come see it. And we do have tours.
When you say that, you're talking about all of the facilities or one or two of the cells, or because it's an expansive area.
Well, for instance, the old death row is totally rebuilt, Unit 17.
It's got air conditioning?
It's going to have air conditioning.
It's going to have air conditioning.
It will have it when we open it, and that's going to be in August, September. That thing will open. 29 is everything is air conditioned, but 29 at Parchman are in the process, and we will get to it. And so that puts us in compliance with the temperature and so forth. So we're getting in compliance with Justice Department as hard as we can.
Yeah.
And 29 has been rebuilt, the parts that we use. So that's good.
I ask you about your frustration. Where does that lie? Most of the frustration.
Most of the frustration is to get people to understand that we really know where we're going and what we're doing, but they keep wanting to maybe change the direction and so forth. And so but we have to stay focused where we are. And people not understanding is normal. So we just have to suck it up and do it. So I don't really get too frustrated about anything.
Yeah. This is some of the frustration. There is the Senate Bill 2717, and are you up on that bill 2717, Mississippi Prison Industries? Tell me what you think about that bill, and I think it's from, well, they set the conferees in the Senate are Sparks, Zuber, and Broomfield, Bell, Anthony, and Haney in the House.
Right, and so that's the bill that where that's working with Accelerate Mississippi and so forth, where that we'll be working with them, and we are anyway. So we have the nonprofit now that exists. They created 2 years ago, which we supported, and therefore then we can lease the equipment at Parchman and so forth. I don't think that'll change any of that, other than we may be working closer with Accelerate Mississippi and so forth. But all the players that come on board is good with us. We need all the help we can get. So we look at it positive. We don't look at it negative, and we don't shuck around. So it's fine. It's going to be okay. Whatever happens, we're going to deal with it and make it happen.
I think, did Bradley resign or retire?
Yeah, Bradley moved on. He had an opportunity to move to a better job and make more money, and that's what he has to do. His kids in school and so forth. So Bradley did like a lot of people. He got a good break, so he took off. And we'll be looking for someone to take his place. We met on that this past week. And Kel Smith is great to be with, and so it's all moving along. McKinnis is great, and so we making progress.
I think one of the things that you have been adamant about, and you were when you were at Angola, is to introduce more and more Christian faith opportunities. How's that going at Parchman and the other facilities?
Well, we finished our church at Parchman. We'll dedicate it here pretty quick. And we have another one coming online in SMCI. We have 2 more coming, one at Marshall, and one is going to start the foundation at Delta. Then we'll add another one at Parchman and another one at CMCF. So morality plus a job equals success in this business. But it's a job. It's not soft skills. It's a job. So we're having to really focus on skills and trades, and we are. And that's where Accelerate comes in with us really well in the community colleges, because they're involved in that as well. So it's a team, and it's a partnership between all these other agencies to work together to get the job for the inmate. That's the problem.
The contraband report, is it any better, any worse, or the same?
It's better. We have more technology. We have scanners now at the gates. We're controlling it better, and we have some dirty staff. We still do, and we just caught some more in the past 2 weeks, and so we'll just keep on doing what we do to get our staff up to grade and do well. Most of them are doing really great. That's why the prison changes. The thing you got to do is keep them busy, and so that's what we're doing. That we have the clubs, we have organizations set up. You replace gangs with new gangs that we control. The church is a gang. So if you have a church and an inmate preacher and he has his group, then that's a gang, but it's a positive gang that we control. When you go to church, your preacher's the gang leader, if you want to look at it that way, and that's kind of how we do. So create all these things they can belong to and be involved that are positive, and dump the negative, and that's the gang. I hate them. I fight them hard.
Yeah. Did you have input in the Barnett proposal, that bill that came before the Senate, as far as maybe a stage down? No. You didn't have any input in that?
No, sir.
Do you think it's something that probably is going to come up again next session?
I think that by the time the next session comes, we will have spent almost $70 million on Parchman, and it would be foolish at that point to walk away from it since it's repaired, and it's going to serve the citizens longer, so why go spend the many $1 million it'd take to build a new prison right now? That'll come later, I'm sure, but we can get by now with what we're doing, and I think that's important, to save all the money we can and focus on the Justice Department and being in compliance.
One of the things that we couldn't understand is, and I don't think anybody in the Senate could understand, is when you put a proposal like that together and you said we could just move those to the private prison and take over the private prison and buy it, And somebody asked Mr. Barnett or Chairman Barnett, have you talked to the private prison about buying them? And he said, no, is what I hear. And you would think that they would have that, before you put that in the form of a bill, you would have that taken care of.
Well, I think his intentions were to, to move forward and get away from Parchman and not spend the money. But I don't think he had realized that we had spent the amount of money we had on Parchman, because as soon as we find we're deficient, we were using those ARPA funds, federal funds, to repair it, and that's what we did. We took off working on it.
Final segment in a moment or two. Any headway at all as far as the rodeo? I'll ask that too. The Commissioner of Mississippi Department of Corrections, Burl Cain, when we return in.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
There we go. Failure to communicate. Boy, what a line in that show. Cool Hand Luke, man.
That was great.
It was a good show. All right. I do want to give you the time to wrap it up in the last few minutes here. So, any messages to the legislature or anything else that you want to mention?
No, I'd like to mention one more thing about the gangs. We're down to about 1,200 gang members from 6,500, and we've stopped most of the extortion. So that's helping us a lot to have school, and the churches are helping. And so we've got many, many jobs. The cosmetology school is working well for the women, and the inmates are working in different skills and trades. And so we're seeing a lot less violence in the prison because they're busy, and we keep them busy. And then the clubs are working well, and we're teaching inmates entrepreneurship and how to make it on the street, even how to serve food and so forth in restaurants. So things so that they can get jobs. And then probation parole is working with us really well to find jobs, whereas in the past they didn't do that. So we appreciate them, and they've stepped it up. One
of the angst of a lot of people in the legislature and other folks is that the recidivism rate is unusually high for the state of Mississippi. Can you address that?
I can't. I don't have the numbers because they go for 3 years. So you got to have 3 years. So the last numbers were 34%, but that was the 3 before we really got here. And so I think ours are coming out pretty soon, and I think it's going to be a lot less, I hope. But again, it took us 2 years to turn the curve and get the whole thing turned around, or starting to turn. And so it's a big old ship. Anyway, now it's turning, and so that's what's really good, and we're excited about that. Also, then the infrastructure we're correcting and fixing, and that's good. And in our budget request, we have to change some locks and do some things should have been done for the Justice Department years ago. We also really strong now in alcohol and drug treatment, and that's important to get rid of the addiction people have coming to prison, so they don't go right back out and repeat and come right back in. We work close with the parole board now, and we're going to have presumptive parole. We hope this next few months we'll be doing that. That's going to help us get more people out. Back up on this one.
What is presumptive parole?
That means if you come to prison and you have some sentence, you have the right sentences, not real violent, then you can assume you're going to make parole if you do everything perfect and right as you're incarcerated. When your parole date comes, you'll just make it, and the parole board will have their finger on it because they're going to be reviewing the case plans and all these things. But it means you'll be able to parole on out and know you're going to get out if you're being really good. So this is an incentive to come here and behave and move forward and not be chaotic, and then you won't get out.
Let me ask you this. We've had several bills this session dealing with an effort to get the mentally ill out of jails, and the county jails, the city jails. Is that an issue that you have a certain percentage of men and women in the correction system that are maybe should not be in there, should be in a mental institution?
Yes, that is a real problem for us, and we are really focusing on mental health as well as alcohol and drug. We have 2,700 beds set aside for mental health. Now, this means you might be there for a month, and you'd have it the next month for somebody else in your treatment phase, depending on how sick you are with mental health. And so, but we do have to focus on that, and we are, and that's part of the Justice Department, and that's part of their issue. So we're compliant with mental health, or getting there, and we are now, I think, at this time. That's good. Alcohol and drug, we're getting compliant there. We have plenty of that going on. That is really with certified people, masters of social work and so forth, that are clinicians who really are effective in working with mental health and alcohol and addiction and drugs.
Are you finding the right help there at all the prisons? Do you have enough people there right now as far as employment?
We do. We are in good shape with that, and that's contracted out with our health care provider who provides these clinicians to do the work with alcohol and drugs and so forth. Mm-hmm. Our staffing is up. It's coming up, and we're doing better, and we have more people there now, and we have safer prisons, and that's really good. We're getting where we need to be. When I leave, I think it's going to be in pretty good shape, and I hope they'll keep it that way.
Is that anytime soon, or when you leave?
Well, I'm going to leave when the governor runs me off, but I don't think he will. I think I'm good to go till he gets to the end of his term, and then we'll see.
Think we're going to have a rodeo before you leave?
I just had some folks at Parchman yesterday looking at how that's set up, and we can, and we hope to, but we still have a lot to do with infrastructure and so forth, but we have the ability to do it, I think, and that the Delta would like it. The folks up there would, because economically it's good for them. It's good for us because
Absolutely.
It helps keep the prison calm.
Commissioner, it is always a pleasure, sir. Boy, this one was hectic, and it passed by too fast, but I always appreciate you coming in.
Well, I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.
You got it. The one and only Commissioner of the Department of Corrections